the fight that vanished overnight. And as of this week, it's officially off. Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis, the $50 million Netflix spectacle, has been canceled after Most Valuable Promotions completed its internal review into the civil lawsuit that just detonated Davis's reputation. You ever seen a fight promoted like a blockbuster only for the lights to die before the opening bell? That's where we find ourselves tonight. One of boxing's biggest crossover events wiped from the calendar, a lawsuit swirling in Miami-Dade, and a promoter trying to rebuild the story before the dust even settles. Meanwhile, Jake Paul's team is already circling replacement opponents like vultures. The question is simple: who steps in now? And what does this chaos say about the business we keep trying to call a sport? I'm Reggie Cross, former fighter and trainer, breaking it all down for you. Stick around, because we're going behind the lines of the hype, the contracts, and the wreckage between the ropes. Days before the cameras were set to roll, Davis was hit with a civil suit filed in Miami-Dade court on October 30th, 2025 by Courtney Rossell, alleging battery, aggravated battery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Officials at Most Valuable Promotions, Paul's promoter, responded immediately, launching an investigation and publicly condemning all violence while saying they'd make a determination once we have completed our review. Now ask yourself, when your main event guy becomes a legal liability, do you still call it entertainment or liability management? The cancel button starts looking awfully close. And as of Tuesday, November 4th, the bout is now off. While networks were likely scrambling for sound bites, Paul's camp was already flipping the script. The fight world learned that they were reaching out for replacements. According to Sports Illustrated, an offer was formally extended to Ryan Garcia for a December showdown. And you know what that means. When your opponent's legal troubles become bigger than your promo budget, the narrative flips from big fight to damage control. Paul isn't pausing for fallout, he's pivoting. And that's where boxing's business side gets ugly. Garcia should have been the perfect storm. Instagram star, public call-out history with Paul, millions of followers, and the kind of story arc that reads like clicks. Remember his knockdown spree against Devin Haney? Then came a positive Osterine test and the win overturned. He lost to Rolando Romero. So yes, messy. But messy equals narrative gold. SI reports the Paul team approached Garcia. But here's the kicker. It fell apart not because of ego, but because of broadcast rights. See, Garcia fights under DAZN via Golden Boy Promotions. Paul fights under Netflix. That contract wall, it's thicker than any chin in the division. So 1 minute you're the perfect backup opponent. The next you're a niche stub in the soap opera of streaming wars. Let's break it down. De La Hoya, Golden Boy, flat out said the Paul Garcia fight isn't going to happen, while pointing directly to broadcast contracts as the barrier. It's not about desire, it's about platforms. Netflix booked Paul's fight. DAZN holds Garcia's deal. It's the 2025 reality. Two fighters in the same orbit, same hype machine, yet streaming rights keep them galaxies apart. So if you thought the fight was about the ring, think again. It might be about the remote. With Garcia sidelined, Paul's camp moved quickly. December dates of December 12th or December 19th are under consideration. Names being floated: Terrence Crawford, Garcia again, just in case, Francis Ngannou, and Nate Diaz. Each target plays a different compelling story. Crawford for legitimacy, Ngannou for monster crossover appeal, Diaz for grudge rematch heat and soundbite clips. The fight game is always looking for an angle, and Paul's camp is shopping them like holiday specials. Crawford just added undisputed super middleweight champion to his resume after defeating Canelo Alvarez in September on Netflix. That means name recognition, broadcast compatibility, and promotional synergy. For Paul and Netflix, pick someone credible, in contract alignment, and with narrative weight. Crawford ticks every box. It's the easiest path to salvaging the hype engine if they pull the trigger. Then there's the wild side, Ngannou. He's a former UFC heavyweight champ, knocked out Renan Ferreira in his PFL debut, October 2024. His boxing forays have anger, size, crossover intrigue. In my opinion, this is a nightmare matchup for Paul. Francis is a monster with ridiculous power. I feel he would demolish Paul and do so easily. Diaz, 1-1 in boxing, beat Jorge Masvidal, still publicly wants a rematch with Paul. He's got the narrative of, "You promised me." These fights might lack prestige, but they bring chaos and risk, and chaos sells. By the way, if you're digging the breakdown, hit that like. It helps more fight fans see what's really going on behind the lines. We really appreciate it. Now, back to it. Davis isn't just a footnote. He's the protagonist of a cautioned tale. He has elite talent, 2 division titles, and some of boxing's best highlights. But offering issues, they've piled up. Arrests, domestic violence allegations, some dropped. Now this civil suit. When your name is value and liability at the same time, the balance breaks. Paul's camp treats it as business. Davis's brand might be unraveling. Legacy potential meets public trust meltdown. Here's the pattern. Paul feeds off narrative interruptions. Canceled fight, new opponent announcement equals headline. Legal drama, another hook. Netflix deal, bigger stage. Typified. Fighters of old built legacies in the ring. Paul builds his legacy in the algorithm, in the spin, in the pivot. It's less punches landed than clicks generated. And that begs the question, is Paul really boxing or is he producing boxing? Because if the latter's true, then the fight is just the content. The fight story is the product.
So here's where we stand. The fight is gone.
Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis, canceled. Erased from the calendar like it never happened. Netflix pulled the plug, MVPs moved on, and the sport's left staring at an empty ring and a handful of press statements. But let's be honest, this fight was already a fantasy. Davis fights at lightweight. Jake walks around as a cruiserweight and sometimes heavyweight. That's not a matchup, that's marketing. The scales were the first red flag. The only thing heavier than Jake's weight advantage was the disbelief from actual boxing fans. It's part of a pattern. Paul doesn't fight men his own size or seasoned boxers who can punch back with experience. The one time he did, Tommy Fury, he lost. And ever since, he's been shopping for headlines, not competition. Because in the empire of clicks, power isn't measured in pounds, it's measured in views. So yeah, this main event didn't die in the ring. It died in the group chat. A multi-million-dollar circus that collapsed under its own hype. The fighters never touched gloves, but the lawyers went 12 rounds. This isn't boxing anymore. It's boardroom combat, where the knockout punch lands in an email thread and the crowd never even gets to see it connect. The old guard built legends with bruised knuckles and broken ribs. Jake Paul builds his with algorithms, PR pivots, and the chaos of controlled spectacle. A new kind of game where attention is the title belt and outrage is the pay-per-view. So, ask yourself, what's more real now, the fists or the framework? Because when the broadcast fades, the gloves come off and the hashtags go cold. All that's left are headlines and echoes. I'm Reggie Cross for Behind the Lines, where we go further into the fight you didn't know you were watching. If you're feeling the vibe, hit that subscribe and remember, hype fades, legacy don't. Peace. 745